DevLearn was just a few weeks ago, and I'm sure a lot of you saw posts from people attending and even some posts of people feeling like they had some FOMO. I'm sure some of you are wondering, what did I miss? Do I need to be there? Is this worth me saving to attend? Well, friends, in today's video, I'm going to break down the true cost of a conference so that you can make the decision of whether or not DevLearn or another conference is the right conference for you. Just like you, there have been times in my life that I really had to identify whether or not attending a conference is going to be worth it. And quite frankly, even now, I still have to identify whether or not I think a conference is going to be worth the expense. And there are just so many conferences out there, and people love certain conferences for certain reasons, and some are more cult favorites. So I know that it's hard to make that decision of whether or not you need to be there or you should be there, or when you're making the case to your boss, which is the one to make the case for, because you don't want to waste your money, the company's money, your time, or just your experience there, right? You want to make sure you make the right decision. And we all know that conferences are not an inexpensive investment. They are an investment of time, money, and resources. So you want to make sure that you make that right decision. And so over the last few years, I've been part of a few conferences. Before 2020, I had gone to a few conferences. I will say my vast majority of my interactions have been over the last few years. I will say that the vibe at DevLearn this year was definitely different. It was more like a high school reunion. People were just really ready to be out, and it really felt like the right time to start going back in person and going to these conferences and doing the networking and being part of that whole crowd. But beyond that, I really do think that a lot of people that went to DevLearn really felt a renewed sense of purpose going into the end of 22 and heading into 2023. So with all these things in mind, I'm sure you're wondering, is this something that I need to be at? So let me break down step by step the true cost of attending a conference, the pros and the cons, to help you make the best decision for the conference for you. So the first question I want you to ask yourself is, what kinds of topics are you looking to grow and upskill in? So if you're looking to dive more into instructional design and needs analysis and all of those types of things, certain conferences may not be the best place for you to be at. You also want to think about the type of industry that you want to be working in. So it is a lot harder for those that are in higher ed to go to some of these conferences like ETD, ICE, or DevLearn because it is very corporate focused. Are there people that attend that come from a higher ed setting? Absolutely. There's even people that attend that come from a K through 12 setting, but they just don't always feel totally like they find the right sessions and opportunities for them. So they can take and they pull, but it actually feels like a lot of work on their part to have to take and pull, apply what they're learning that is more fit for a corporate setting to their constraints, which are very different in those types of settings. So really think about those types of things. Think about the industries that are typically represented. Think about the topics and what you truly want to learn about. I want you to also sit back and take some time to reflect upon yourself. What are some areas in your career that you're looking to advance? Or are there areas that you want to upscale in, rescale in? Because although it might seem like a stretch for you to go to a certain conference, if it's an area that you want to get involved in, or if it's a goal for you to end up in that industry, or if it's a goal for you to start doing more technology-based things, to do more AR or VR, then you're going to want to look for the conferences that can support that. And you want to make it worth your while so you're gaining some knowledge to help you in the future, or gaining some knowledge to identify whether or not this is a career deep dive that I want to take, or if it doesn't feel like the right place for me. And I want you to make a goal. You know me, I do love a good to-do list. I love a good goal moment. I love a good manifestation. And so I really do believe that when you are identifying which conference that you want to attend, you really want to identify what is your goal coming out of it. If your goal is more networking or something like that, then you're going to want to look for the conferences that offer more of those opportunities. Maybe offer more social networking hours, offer, some conferences you can pick to dine, sign up for a restaurant to dine with, others that are attending the conference. So think about those types of things, and I want you to make your own goal. This will really help you narrow down the types of which conferences conferences that you should be attending. Then I want you to take a look at all the conferences that are out there. And lucky for you, I have created a map, a little roadmap for you all of some conferences, some highlights about them, and then just to give you a little bit of insight as to when they typically are held. So that way you can really map out and look at which conferences you might want to dive into. So after you pull down that list, I want you to look at who's hosting the conference. What types of topics do they typically talk about? What are the type of people that typically attend? So they usually have some sort of breakdown. And if you can't find it on the regular conference website, where I also find that they will tell you that the breakdown of the type of attendee will be under the sponsor section to help give potential sponsors and exhibitors more of an insight as to who will be at the session. So if you don't see it in the regular materials on their website, that's a good place to also go to find out more about who's the type of people that are going to be there. You usually break them down by job title, by industry, and things like that. And so once you've really looked at who's hosting the events, what their mission is as an organization, the types of sessions and the type of people that attend, I want you to really think about, is this some place that that I can see myself at, right? Is this going to help me achieve my larger goal? By now you've probably narrowed down the list a little bit more, but you're still probably left with quite a few options, right? So the next thing I want you to look at is the actual logistics. First things first, what time of year is this conference normally held? There may be certain times of the year that you're busier. There may be certain times of the year that you typically take vacation with your family. There may be certain times of year that there are other conferences that you typically attend that are happening, or other big events at your organization that this could possibly conflict with. That really does make a big difference. I can tell you that this year was absolutely bonkers this fall. I had a lot of travel for a volunteer role that I hold. I have a lot of travel personally, a large vacation, and then I had my ATD chapter, my local ATD chapters conference, the Anchored in Learning Summit, and then I had DevLearn. So it was just a lot all packed in at one time. And honestly, I really also wanted to go to Learning 2022, but it was a couple weeks after DevLearn in November, and I just could not manage, for my family's sake, to be going to all these conferences, because as soon as I got off the plane from Vegas, I was headed to a trunk or treat with my kids because it's Halloween weekend. So really think about the logistics and what's going to work best for you, for your family, for your mental health, for your company, and what really does make the most sense for you. Are there times that you may want to go to a conference where it's a little bit busier for you? Absolutely. If it's one of those like I absolutely can't miss type of conferences, but for your first one, when you're really diving into which is the best for you, I would not add that extra layer of stress of having all these other things that are competing on top of you as you're also attending this conference, because it does take you away from being present in the moment and being able to truly absorb and immerse yourself in the entire experience. Then I want you to ask yourself, where is this conference normally held? Location can play a big role as to whether or not you're going to attend certain conferences. So, for example, there are certain conferences that happen in the same place every single year. The Learning Guild is great at that. You already know where the conference is going to be, even the venue, because they hold them in the same place. So you know that Learning Solutions is always going to be in Orlando in April. You know that DevLearn will always be at the Mirage in Las Vegas. You also know that Learning 2022 or Learning will be at Orlando and I believe the Coronado Resort, the Disney Coronado Resort, every single November. That really helps play a huge factor. What does rotate is actually ATD's international conference and exposition, as well as their other conferences like TechLearn, Core 4, and things like that. They will rotate location. They do have them on their website, so you can pre-plan and see where it's going to be in the future. But if this is the year that you're planning to, this is going to be the year that I go to ATD ICE, so let's say it's 2023, it's all the way in San Diego, which is a lot for someone coming from the East Coast, right? So it's expensive. So you're either flying into LA and then, figuring out a drive to get to San Diego, or you're flying into San Diego and your flight options are just a little bit less. And it's a long flight and it's more expensive than perhaps going down to Disney or even going to New Orleans, or honestly, sometimes even Vegas, because you can get a lot of flights in and out of Vegas. I love the predictability of, locations with conferences with the Learning Guild, because I know exactly where I'm going. I now know the ins and the outs. I also like the variety, but I do know there are going to be certain times of year that I'm going to be spending a lot more. So there is some variability in terms of cost with some conferences, because their location does does vary and does change. So if you know that your conference is in a location that is going to be a little bit more expensive, I mean, I recommend this for any time, any conference, but I would definitely put on some flight alerts so you can see when the best time is to buy, and you could be alerted of some of the best deals and grab them while you can. The closer that you wait to conference season, the closer you wait to the actual conference to book flights, the more expensive they're going to be and the less options that there will be out there. Then I want you to know your own logistics. Meaning, are there times of the year that are non-negotiable you cannot be away for your family? Over here on my wall, I have a big yearly calendar that has all of the big things written on them, right? So all the conferences that I'll be at, all my big travel, vacations, spring break is on there, the last day of school, different conventions that I have to go to for my volunteer position, all of those things are on that wall so that I can see what my big non-negotiables are, right? So for example, right now it looks like Learning Solutions, if I do end up attending, is going to bump right up against a mastermind retreat that I should be attending as well. And those are things, and it's also going to be my kids' spring break at the same time. So it's going to be hella crazy. But if there are times that if you've ever, like let's say you've already planned a spring break trip for you and your kids, or you know you're going to be doing spring break, Learning Solutions is not going to be the appropriate conference for you this year. That being said, is the conference in a location that you could tie into a family vacation? My birthday also happens to be the Sunday before Learning Solutions, so I may just, you know, fly my whole family down to Orlando, do a Disney trip. The kids are not here right now, so I can say that out loud. And then, you know, they'll go home and they'll be home for the last few days of spring break, and I'll do my conference and, you know, maybe my mastermind or something like that. But those are all the logistics that you honestly have to think about when you are pulling together, you know, when you're identifying the appropriate conference for you. And you can be flexible about it too, right? So I'm going to be at Training 2023 in February. And so that I might turn into a family trip. It just honestly depends on what works out best for my family. And then I want you to be honest with yourself. You are going to spend time away from your family if you go to a conference. How much time can you honestly spend away from your family? Because there are usually pre-conference workshops and things like that that are great add-ons, but if you can't take on that additional time during that time of the year, then it's going to be really hard for you to truly attend that conference. So all of those factors do have to come into play, and you need to be honest with yourselves, right? And you need to be able to plan ahead just your everyday life that you're gonna have to put on hold or move around or make accommodations for in order to attend that conference. Now, I don't think that it should stop you. If you have the opportunity to attend and you can, you know, shift and make accommodations so that you can attend, absolutely attend, but just know that you are gonna have to do that. And then I want you to think about, honestly, what are the costs? Now, here's the thing about costs. People always see the ticket, the cost of the ticket to attend, and they just see that as the cost. But there is so much more, other hidden costs, right? So there is the cost of your flight. There is the cost of your hotel. There is the cost of your transportation from your home to the airport. There's the cost of your meals that are not included with the ticket, and honestly the only thing that are typically included with the ticket is your box lunch. All of those things have to be taken into consideration, and if you're an independent consultant, that's all coming out of your pocket. Yes, it's an expense that you can write off, but it's still coming out of your pocket, and it's still not money you're saving. So that is something that you need to budget for as you are identifying the appropriate conference for yourself this year. And again, looking at where the locations are, certain areas are going to be more expensive. San Diego is probably going to be a little bit more expensive than, let's say, in Orlando, right? And also, you can be creative, we'll say, about things like lodging and things like that. So for example, when I went to Learning Solutions in April, it was just myself going, and it was less expensive for me to rent a car for that week and stay at my girlfriend's house that lives, you know, 20 minutes away from the convention center. That worked out for me. It was a lot less expensive. I'll probably do the same thing in February as I can. For DevLearn, I had the cost also of, you know, my team to attend. So there were 6 of us that were attending. So what I ended up doing was actually getting an Airbnb and then just renting a car to take us to the Mirage. Ended up being cheaper for us than me getting hotel rooms for everyone. So you can be creative, but then you do have added costs, right? So if you're not staying on site, like in the hotel, then you have to account for the fact of like Uber or a rental or something like that. So all of those things that you have to think about when you actually do think of the true cost of the trip. So once you have this spreadsheet and this list of all of, the conferences that you can attend, that you want to attend, that fit in with your schedule, that are within your budget, now I want you to really narrow down the best decision for you. You're going to want to look at who's attended in the past. Ask for testimonials. If you have a connection on LinkedIn that has been to some of these conferences, send them a DM and ask them what they thought about it. Heck, even just throw out a post on LinkedIn and saying, hey, I'm thinking about going to ATD Core 4. What does everyone think about that conference, and is it worth me attending? Shoot me a DM if you don't want to post something publicly or something. But ask for those testimonials. Don't just make the decision totally blind. I mean, I don't buy most things on Amazon without looking at the reviews first. So think of the conferences in that same way. And then I want you to go back to what you did in the beginning and your goal, and really think about which of these last few conferences that you're looking at are actually going to help you achieve your goal. Once you have that, maybe let's say last 2 or 3 conferences that you think are the best opportunities for yourself, then you have to build the case. Either you're building the case for yourself to make the decision, or you're building the case for your boss to be able to go. So really present, what is it that you're going to come out of it? What's your goal? What does the budget look like? What is it that you're going to take from that conference and be able to take to, your professional development and the contributions that you make to your organization or your clients and things like that. And then my last tip for you is do not count anything out. Just because you're unable to go to a conference one year does not mean that you will not be able to ever go to that conference. There is a conference that I'm dying to attend in North Carolina. It's the Training Industry Conference and Exposition, TICE. I think that's the acronym stands for. It's in North Carolina the end of June. I am always busy the end of June with my volunteer organization. My hope is that in the future I will be able to attend because either maybe the date will move or it'll just work out with my schedule. Or maybe I won't have to attend a conference or any of the things that we do during that time of year. So that's something that's going to sit on my bucket list for a really long time, and it's okay. I know people that wanted to do 2022 DevLearn, that was their bucket list item, and things happened and they were not able to get to 2022. They were even saving for it. So they're just taking those funds and rolling them into 2023 and planning to attend that. Just because it's not a yes right now does not mean it's not going to be a yes in the future. So put it on your vision board, figure out a way that, you're going to be working towards it. And honestly, if it's a no for your boss for whatever reason, doesn't mean that you can't, still put that on your vision board and continue to work towards it for a future event. So I definitely recommend you never giving up on your goal of attending these conferences. So if you want to know more about the best conferences to attend, make sure that you click the link down below to grab my calendar so you can really deep dive and really plan out the best conference for you. This list will constantly be evolving, so we'll be sending out periodic updates as that list continues to grow and evolve. And if you have any feedback on any of the conferences, please leave that comment down below because I would love to know which conferences are the ones that you are must be at for you, or what's on your bucket list, or ones that you're like, what, I don't need to be there again. Did it once, we're good. Friends, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.